This will be part 2, soups to salad. This is the Happy Diabetic Kitchen, the podcast about people who love to eat and cook healthy. This is your guide to the world of healthy cooking and conversations about happy diabetic living and lifestyles, where we simply turn ordinary ingredients into something extraordinary. Welcome to the kitchen, and let's get cooking. Hello everyone, I am Chef Robert Lewis, the Happy Diabetic, and this, once again, is the internet's most delicious cooking podcast. Welcome to the Happy Diabetic Kitchen. We're getting ready to explore a healthy diabetic lifestyle. I want to take the mystery out of healthy cooking, explore some amazing foods, and of course share with you my diabetic journey with all my successes and all my challenges. And say, if you're new to the show, I'm happy that you're here. With me in the kitchen, as always, is my son Jason, engineer, podcaster, friend, and partner through all of this journey. Jason, how are you?
Hey, I'm great. How are you?
I never had it so good. I'm doing really well. So a little different format this week. We've done part 1 last week, which was all about salads starring microgreens. We had a special guest from the Little Indian Micro Farm talking about micro herbs and microgreens. Very, very interesting. But today, in the kitchen, it's all about soups of love. The recipe of the podcast this week will be an amazing butternut and acorn squash soup, some helpful hints in making chef-inspired soups, and I want to talk about a new product from Xeris Pharmaceuticals, and of course, much, much more. So, if you're ready, Jason, are you ready?
I'm ready.
I'm ready. Let's get cooking.
Let's do it.
So I'm ready to help you take the mystery out of chef-inspired soup making. So here we go. A couple simple steps. Start with step 1. Have a homemade stock or a good quality store-bought, preferably organic stock that you can buy at your grocery store. Now, on my website, happydiabetic.com, go to the blog entries, and you will see my recipe for amazing, simple, and easy, and inexpensive homemade chicken stock. Once you make this stock, you'll never go back to the box stocks again, but I understand just how easy and simple those are to use. Now, another step that we want to talk about, and another tip, is a thing called roux, R-U-X. In many soups, a roux is used as the thickener. In French, roux stands for reddish brown, kind of the color of a roux after it's cooked. It's a thickener for sauces that combines always equal parts flour, equal parts butter. It's used great in creamy soups that really require a roux to thicken them. You can also use cornstarch or flour, but my go-to is always this roux. Like, for example, my broccoli cheese soup, the roux I use is 2 tablespoons of flour, 2 tablespoons of brown butter. Cook it all together in the pot, and that's going to be my thickening agent. Step number 2 is basic aromatics. So when cooking a chef-inspired soup, you need flavor. You need carrots, you need celery, onions, garlic, leek, shallots, fennel, parsnips, anything like that that will give your soup amazing color and flavor. Now, some other aromatics you might want to add if you're adventurous would be ginger, chilies, maybe some lemongrass. Simply peel and chop and saute these ingredients in a big stock pot with either extra virgin olive oil or a little bit of butter, depending on what type of soup you're making. I almost always use olive oil. I love the flavor. It's light, it's delicate, and delicious. And here's a happy diabetic tip. I usually throw in maybe a little bacon or a little ham, bone just depending on the kind of soup I'm making, which gives the soup a little bit of smokiness. I mean, this is just one way you can get very creative. Obviously, don't do this if you're making a vegetarian soup. And there are amazing vegetarian stocks on the market, but I'm also going to put on my website a recipe for a really simple vegetarian soup stock. Okay, step 3, add spices and hearty herbs. Add your bay leaf, some chili powder, ground coriander, thyme, cumin, rosemary, etc. Stir them up in your aromatics and cook just for a couple minutes. When you cook this in with your vegetables, it just expands the flavor and adds lots of dimension. Step number 4, you might have starches to add, like potatoes, canned beans, noodles, rice, or grains. Step 5, add the vegetables. Maybe kale is a great one for me. You may not like it. A lot of people don't. I love kale that gets cooked in my soup. But you can also add spinach, zucchini, peas, Swiss chard, bok choy, mushrooms. Are you getting the picture? Vegetables are the key to a chef-inspired soup. And something to think about when you're working with vegetables, look at the soup spoon you're going to be eating with. Your cuts of vegetables and potatoes should be no bigger than that soup spoon. So you get lots of flavor, lots of particles in the spoon. So now it's a good time to pour in your strained stock. Simply add your strained stock, bring the soup to a boil, reduce the heat, and simmer. Boiling a soup will destroy the vegetables. A nice simmer, maybe 20 to 30 to 40 minutes. It really depends on the kind of soup you're making. And you can also puree your soup after it's done, something I really like to do when making a creamy soup like mushroom or cream of broccoli. And I like to use a Vitamix blender, a Cuisinart blender, something that's got some power, or you can buy a very inexpensive handheld immersion blender. They work really good. But just remember, your soup is super hot, 200 degrees maybe. So be careful for splattering. Be very careful. Start slow and then go high. So number 7, my favorite step, is it's time to finish the soup. So your options are fairly endless, but here are some of my most common add-ins towards the end of the cooking process. Citrus, lemon, lime juice, soy sauce, sesame oil. Now, when adding this, add about a teaspoon to a tablespoon at a time. Remember, you can always add more, but you can't take it out once you've done it. Vinegar for the acidic tendencies of soups can make it flavor really nice. Red or white wine, sherry, again, 1 teaspoon at a time. Heavy cream, also a nice additive to round out a soup like this butternut squash soup. Herbs like mint, parsley, tarragon, cilantro chopped at the very last minute. Maybe you like a little Tabasco. Maybe you like a little sriracha. Easy does it. Add a little bit at the very end to give your soup a lot of dimension. So, presentation is everything. It's kind of why I'm hanging out with you today. Garnish is a key. So, I like to use various garnishes for some real typical looks and flavors, like crisp tortilla strips, chopped avocado, chopped tomatoes, fresh herbs, sprinkle atop a bowl, maybe some pumpkin seeds, maybe some walnuts, some toasted cashews, scallions, chopped nuts, cranberries, freshly Parmesan grated cheese. These sorts of things make the soup just very, very delicious. It's not difficult to make good soup, but it is delicious and worth the time. So those are my basics, but let's get into now some helpful soup hints. Whenever I'm making soup, I usually apply these. I always double the recipe because if I'm going to make a single recipe, why not make double and then just freeze it all? I love to sweat the vegetables. This makes a good soup, builds up flavor as you go. Consider each ingredient's cook time. For example, you know that green peppers will take a lot faster than a potato will take. So stage those items in accordance to the cook time so they all come out perfectly done. Chop in spoon sizes. Salt your soup very sparingly, but listen, by all means, salt and pepper, season your soup. Make it taste good. Don't be afraid to season, just a little at a time. Because like I said earlier, you can always remove it, but you can't. Bleh. You can. Okay, I'm going to say it again because it's very confusing, but I'm all good. You can always add more, but you can never take it out. That's what I mean to say. Thanks. Salt your soup, pepper, fresh herbs sparingly. Have a great stock. And remember, I put a really great chicken stock on my website, happydiabetic.com. Another helpful hint for me would be to simmer, and simmer some more. Once soup has come to a boil, reduce it to a simmer and make sure it stays there. Boiling things too vigorously, the vegetables get mushy, the meat gets tough, the noodles will start to break down. Take a deep breath, slow cooking, a nice, easy simmer. And you can always cool it, leave it uncovered for about 1 to 1.5 hours, and then right in the refrigerator. As long as it's in the refrigerator within 4 hours and gets down to temperature 40 degrees, you will be A to go. And listen, soups can last in the refrigerator at least up to 3 to 4 days. But I usually split the batch and freeze it. That's really works great to me. And soups will last 2 to 3 months in the freezer, no problem. Chef-inspired soups, simple and easy. And I will be putting up recipes for soups on my website. But currently right now is my delicious soup. My roasted vegetable soup of love is on my website. Also, I've also put on the recipe of the podcast, which we're going to get into in just a moment. Before we get into the recipe of the podcast, I want to just chat briefly about Xeris Pharmaceuticals. They've just created a product called Gvoke, Gvoke. It's the first ready-to-use stable liquid glucagon. I'm really proud of this product because it's been a long time coming, and I've been involved in various stages from a marketing and consumer awareness platform. So what is glucagon and really what is Gvoke? Well, simply it's this. Gvoke is a ready-to-use, room temperature stable liquid glucagon for the treatment of severe hypoglycemia. That's low blood sugar levels in people like me, type 2, type 1s. It's also available in a pediatric and adult version, and it's available for people with diabetes ages 2 years or above. It's an amazing program, pre-filled syringe. When you need it, when you have a low, when you are in trouble, I would definitely have you or your loved one reach for some Gvoke. It's available at your pharmacy. It's a revolutionary product. I would ask your doctor about it. Do some research. Xeris Pharmaceuticals online, and you'll learn all you need to learn. I would check it out. I'm certainly going to get some for me. It just became available. Pharmacies are starting to crank up on the availability, and I think you're going to find it to be an amazing product when you need it, when you're having that low hypoglycemic event. Well, let's get right into the recipe. Here's what you're going to need. 1 butternut squash, quartered. 1 acorn squash, quartered. Extra virgin olive oil, just a drizzle. 1 medium onion. 3 cloves of garlic minced. 3 medium carrots, roughly chopped. 2 cups of vegetable stock. 2 teaspoons of pure maple syrup, a half a teaspoon of salt, half a teaspoon of black pepper, 1 teaspoon of ground cinnamon, about a quarter teaspoon of cayenne, and 4 to 6 sprigs of very fresh thyme. So let's put it all together. So basically what you're going to do is cut the acorn squash and butternut squash in half. We're going to remove all the pulp and the seeds. Place it cut side down on a sheet pan, drizzle with a little olive oil, and bake for about 375 degrees, about 1 hour. You'll know when it's done. You'll be able to take a sharp knife and pierce the squashes very tenderly. It'll come out, and it will even start to look lightly brown in a few spots. We're going to take it from the oven and let it cool down, and once it's cool, we're going to scoop all the remaining flesh out of the skins and put it into a bowl. In a heavily bottomed pot, we're going to add olive oil, and we're going to get that hot. In go the onions. We're going to saute them till they're soft. We're going to add the carrots until they're tender, and add the garlic for about 1 minute to 2 minutes. Then the squash goes in, the maple syrup goes in, salt, pepper, cinnamon, cayenne, fresh thyme, and the vegetable stock. You can even use chicken stock if you want. So now we're going to increase the heat to high. Once it comes to a boil, again, like we talked about in the tips, bring it down to a simmer. Reduce the heat to low and allow it to simmer very low, covered for about 30 to 40 minutes till it's very, very tender. Next, we're going to remove the sprigs of thyme, and then using an immersion blender or a Vitamix, we're going to pour the soup in the container and then blend it till it's very, very smooth. Then I'm going to adjust the seasoning by tasting the soup, see what it needs. It may need a little more salt, a little more pepper, maybe a little more cayenne, depending on how spicy you like it. If it's too thick, add a little bit of water. But most of all, make your soup flavorful. Ivan will add a little bit of heavy cream or half and half to it just to make it nice and smooth. We're going to transfer the soups to a bowl, garnish with fresh thyme, pumpkin seed, maybe a couple cashew nuts, any other toppings you fancy that will make it look really, really great. And again, like we said earlier, I'll always make a double batch so I can fill it into freezer baggies, flatten them out, put them right in my freezer. And now, if you could come to Iowa where I live, you'll see I've got 3 or 4 bags of this very soup in my freezer because Thanksgiving's over. We're heading into Christmas. We're heading into the seasons where soup is going to be an amazing part of your meal. And again, we'll make a double pot and I'll eat it with my family all week long. It makes a great, great meal, super nutritious and super delicious and very low cost. So there it is, my amazing butternut acorn squash soup of love. If you're loving what you hear in the kitchen, please leave a comment or feedback at Stitcher, Google Play, or Apple Podcast. My team and I, we love to hear what you're thinking, and we love your thoughts and comments. They are very much appreciated. Thank you so much. And remember, all the recipes that we talk about on the Happy Diabetic Kitchen are available at my website, happydiabetic.com. Our podcast today is produced and engineered by Jason Lewis. Our theme music by the Happy Diabetic Kitchen Band and yours truly, Chef Robert Lewis on the Searing electric guitar. And of course, I want to thank our Diabetic Kitchen mascot, Scout and Tucker, who last I saw were baking chocolate chip cookies. Well, thanks for tuning in, and let me leave you with this thought. Jimmy Fallon once said, "Thank you, horseradish, for being neither a radish nor a horse. What you are is a liar food." Well, so long for now, and remember, no one loves you more than me.